Good morning from the campus of the United States Sports Academy in Daphne, Alabama. This is Sports Talk, a weekly presentation of the Academy and the Department of Communications at the Sports Academy, in which we discuss several pertinent and current issues. I'm Dr. Arthur Ogden. I serve as moderator. Today's panel consists of Dr. Fred Cromartie, all the way down there on the end, who is our Director of Doctoral Studies, and Dr. Tim Foley, who's our Dean of Student Services. And today, we're going to talk about what everyone else is talking about. Unless you've been vacationing on one of the Aleutian Islands off of Alaska the past week, you are aware of the furor which has erupted over the Super Bowl champion New England Patriots and the Patriot quarterback, Tom Brady. Now, whether you're a Patriot loyal fan or whether you're a Patriot hater, and they're all coming out of the woodwork these days, this news has piqued your interest 24/7 for these last 5 or 6 days. So we're going to take a look at what we choose to call Ghazi instead of the tired inflate gate or chalk gate or whatever. You realize that suffix gate comes from Watergate, which happened about a half a century ago. But these
many of them don't even know what that is.
I know, and the imagination that is exercised by these young sports writers and sportscasters is absolutely limited. At any rate, we want to keep this up to date and take a look at it. And so, with the background, you all know that the quarterback Tom Brady led the Patriots in the AFC Championship game on 18 January of this year, and won the game 45-7. Halftime score was 17-7. At halftime, one of the Colts trainers had complained to the officials that he felt as though one of the balls seemed to be less than fully inflated. And after an inspection, the officials inflated all the balls to the proper PSI, that's pounds per square inch. And the second half was played without any of the supposed deflated footballs. An investigation was called for by Commissioner Roger Goodell, whose job really is on the line with all the nonsense that's been happening under his watch. And the report was delivered by Ted Wells, Paul Weiss, Rifkin, Wharton, and Garrison, LLP, on 6 May. In the Wells report, as it has become to be known, presents some rather convincing circumstantial evidence of someone tampering with the PSI of football.
Convincing and circumstantial? Wow.
Convincing circumstantial, that's right. These are more than 2 syllables, so
yes.
As fast as you can. But essentially presented no definitive conclusion as to culpability, and particularly absolved everybody having to do with the kicking balls. But this past Monday, 2 days ago, the NFL, vis-a-vis Roger Goodell, handed down its verdict. 4-game suspension for Tom Brady, $1 million fine for the Patriots, and some future draft choices, including the #1 choice from next year. There's been an uproar from both the Patriots loyalists and Patriots dissenters. And so we're going to take a look at this uproar. So I'm going to ask the panel. There are vocal expressions from all venues on this issue and on this particular episode in the Patriots' history. Do you guys think it's justified?
I think they have a playbook of interesting going under the mantra, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. You look at the videotaping of practices. Their first Super Bowl win when they beat the Rams, that was what they call that the greatest show on turf. And for whatever reason, they were able to know where they were going, a lot of the Rams said.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know what the weight of a football does, but Belichick's been in trouble. You saw Harbaugh's comments last year after they did a special play. So I'm going to say they do take it to the limit.
Fred, what do you think?
Yeah, they take it to the limit. The simple fact of the matter is that it boils down to you've got a rule. The rule's in the book. No matter how people feel about it, whether it's a silly rule or not, it's a rule. And the simple fact of the matter is that there is sufficient information and evidence that says that they really pushed the limits on that rule. They don't know who did what or whatever. The simple fact of the matter is that the rule was violated, and in terms of integrity for the league or damaging the brand or whatever it might be, something had to be done. And it goes back to what you said earlier. Regardless of whether you support them or you hate them, the simple fact of the matter is that there are varying perceptions all across the board out there.
You know, I've read, here's the report. Here's the Wells report. I read this booger last night. There's nothing in here that is either indicting or exculpatory. In fact, let me read you from the conclusions regarding the game balls used. Section 8. Conclusions regarding the game balls used by the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Based on the evidence developed in connection with the investigation and summarized in this report, we have concluded that it is more probable than not that New England Patriot personnel participated in violations of the NFL playing rules and were involved in a deliberate attempt to circumvent these rules which Fred has pointed out as he emphasized the simple fact of the matter. Great phrase, Fred. And it's more probable than not that Jim McNally and John Jastrzemski, the two equipment guys who have now been fired, were in on it. So I come back to this question about there's a lot of indicating, but for me, there's really no finger pointing. And Fred's telling me the same thing. He says that there seems to be enough evidence, at least for him to make that conclusion. And I understand that because the way this has been written is very, very loose.
I agree, and it's ridiculous to put together a document like that without stating that. They either did or they didn't.
You know what I think? Of course, I still think that there were a lot of people that were involved in JFK's murder, and I'm convinced of that. Goodell knows that his job is on the line with this one. He's had enough happen, and he's handled them all wrong. And so he had to do something. I think he got with his buddy Wells and said, look, if you can't find anything that is really, really indicting where you can just put the iron to the fire and say, by God, write it that way and leave the conclusions somewhat ambiguous. Why would he do that? Because that allows him to have complete latitude to apply any penalty he wishes. Then, thinking further on, because he didn't get where he is by being a dummy or not being involved in skullduggery, the appeal comes about. His edicts have been shot down somewhat because I think upon review, they reduce it to half, maybe reduce it by 3 games. I'm still puzzled by the $1 million fine, but we can get to that. And then Goodell can say to the other one, hey, I did my job. It just wasn't upheld. So that's my conspiratorial attitude about how this was written.
We're looking at this from all of the information I've heard and all the people out there talking. We think this just boils down to it's a cookie cutter situation. No, each and every one of these circumstances that he's had to deal with, and I'm not excusing the commissioner at all. It's different. It has been different. And that's what we have to consider when we're looking at this. I don't know what transpired in terms of deciding on the fines and that, but it's not Goodell that decided on that aspect of it. That was based on the fact that the vice president, Troy Vincent, wrote his letter. Roger Goodell, supported it. And that's how this all transpired in terms of fines, suspensions, and all this good stuff. So it's just more than the commissioner involved, but he is the leader who is in charge of everything. So
I think that's the same reason they gave the $1 million fine. It boils down to institutional control, according to like NCAA language. So they give them $1 million fine because who's the owner? Bob
Kraft
is not controlling it. And then let me get back to one of the things that you said, oh, they've been getting under the carpet. They've just done. Are they on trial? Are they being judged because of everything else that went wrong? The so-called spying, the so-called.
They're not on trial.
It's the same thing. They're on the radio, sports radio. And then how about when they brought out the snow machine to clean off the lines? You know?
They are the Oakland Raiders of the 60s.
Okay, now that's a serious.
That's a good point.
Nobody ever said that.
Excellent point, because he talked about the stickums illegal, right? They never see her. Remember when Howie Long's jersey got sold? They said he had knives and shanks under his numbers. Baseball players, pitchers doctor balls, players doctor bats.
Yeah, I know. And they got pitchers will have razor blades on their gloves, and guys got
Vaseline,
over his neck.
pine tar.
Yeah, it's not pine tar. Well, they've also been.
Slap shot.
Okay, if this is such a serious violation in and of itself, this lone instance, if it is so indicting, why is it that the Green Bay Packers only got a $2,500 fine for heating up the footballs? Why is it that who are the two football quarterbacks who use sandpaper to rough them up? And so
there was no rule in place about those.
Oh, well, come on. It's the same ethical thing. And every time they throw it for the integrity of the game. Well, if you're scuffing up the ball, you're doing something that is just as egregious. And we're probably
after the fact, they put a rule in.
We're probably going to run over a little bit here because this is an engaging topic. But I really think that we have to examine one question. Are the New England Patriots being penalized for this one instance, or are they just being piled on because of their, quote, history of, what do you say, coming in under the
little under the radar?
Under the radar. What do you think, guys?
I agree. I think I think it's because of their history. I mean, I have no doubt that the Patriots were a better team than the Colts on that day. No doubt.
They were in the second half. They outscored them 28.
Yeah, and that's with regular balls.
Regular football. Yeah.
So, I mean.
Well, Fred makes a good point. Each instance seems to happen in a vacuum, and we can't compare them. But Roger Goodell keeps stepping all over his tie. I mean, with the Ray Rice thing. 2-game suspension, and somebody's going to come up and say, wait a minute, let's suppose that I'm from some foreign planet like Los Angeles. And I come down here and I take a look and I say, well, this guy punched out a woman and he got suspended for 2 games. This guy let the air out of the ball and got suspended 4 games. Well, it must be more important to keep the balls inflated properly than it is to hit women. You know, that's the conclusion that we reach. And this is the problem with Goodell. He got himself into this fix by making the stupidest of all penalties for Ray Rice, and everybody's going to hold that up. But when you have a system of so-called retribution that redistributes and makes the situation whole, then the value judgments have to have some common basis. And I don't think it does.
They don't. And I'm really interested in.
Ultimately, everyone wants to call into question the integrity of Mr. Wells. Okay, that's who the finger is being pointed at, because he was the outside guy that did the report.
He wasn't an outside guy. He was a buddy.
You know what?
He's Goodell's buddy.
In some form or fashion, no matter what, the person would have had some type of relationship with the league in some way. So the fact of the matter is that go back and dissect it also. There are 2 points that come back from the Patriot side of it where the quarterback didn't cooperate, wouldn't turn over his phone so that it could be forensically determined. They weren't looking at anything else other than if there was information out there about it. Plus, he said that the employees both indicated through their text messages that Tom Brady was fully aware in terms of what they were doing with the balls and that. Because
I read
No, you can't.
I read them all. I didn't find that in there.
Mr.
It was
Wells,
implicit. It was implicit, and it's what he inferred from the implications there, but they do not specifically point to anybody. The only thing is, McNally refers to himself as the inflator,
the inflator.
but he doesn't say anything about anyone
But he
else.
did say that Brady did have a text that was sent to him to indicate that, hey, you're gonna pretty much have a tough, day to day with what you have with your responsibility. So I mean, we're taking it to the extreme, but the simple fact of the matter is that there's a little bit of, presumption, and it's based on lack of cooperation.
Okay,
So-
in a court of law.
We ain't in a court of law.
Okay, now that's another point. In a discussion with someone else, I said, what about the constitutional rights? And someone that this person I was discussing with said, oh, the Constitution doesn't apply here. Excuse me? I think the Constitution applies in every instance. And the Fourth Amendment, they're being denied the right to fully participate, because this is from my perspective, this whole report is just a kangaroo court.
From your perspective,
Exactly.
they gave them, they provided them the right to participate. They chose not to. Once again, it's not a court of law, though.
It's still a court of common decency. And if I'm in a court of common decency and you don't have the right to compel me to present evidence, I'm not going to. And you can draw whatever conclusions you want to. That's a Fifth Amendment right.
Well, wait a minute. Where was their common decency when they decided to let this go on?
Who decided?
I don't know who decided. I'm just telling you. All of a sudden, the balls came up. All of a sudden, they came up out of line. Now they're being looked at. We got a final report out of it, and now they don't like what was recommended out of it. So
nobody wants to
again,
believe Yee when Yee says, well, wait a minute. Maybe somebody was in collusion to really nail him. And of course, Yee is
collusion.
Yeah,
Wow.
there was a sting operation.
Yeah, it was.
And this has been, really, I mean, this is what Yee, who is Brady's agent, is asserting. And of course, it's a smoke screen. But it points up to, I said my perception. Everybody's dealing with perceptions, and you can't draw any other conclusion from that hunk of junk report than personal perspectives and subjective
The
judgment.
personal perspective from Mr. Wells ties right back to the rule. To the rule.
Well, that's another program. I don't even know why we had this rule. I mean,
In regards to that,
it's really a silly
I
rule.
wanted to ask you, besides making it lighter, what does it do? You can grip it more firmer? What?
I know this much.
Less
Before it was a
fumbles.
rule, yes, number one is less fumbles. Makes it easier to catch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Much easier to catch the ball. It doesn't really do anything to the spin, because when I was coaching, we threw the ball an awful lot. And I want to make sure my receivers could catch it. I went to a clinic once, and the coach from LaBelle Edwards from BYU, man, what a passing attack he had. He always said, we start with the offensive line. Then we go to the receivers and the quarterbacks. We start with the offensive line. And there were two or three of us who went up after and said, you guys are really catching the ball really, really well. He goes, yeah, we make sure they're not inflated full. That was not an NCAA rule back then. So I made sure my footballs were never inflated more than 11 pounds.
But it's a rule now.
Well, not in the NCAA. But in the NFL, understand where the original rule came from. The original rule came from the ball manufacturers, who said, it's on the ball, it says, do not inflate to 13.5. And it used to say, do not inflate more than 13.5. So that was the maximum, otherwise the ball would go off. At any rate, one last question for each of you. Give me a quick answer. Is the penalty too stringent, not stringent enough, or just right? Tim?
Too stringent, but that's because of the history. Didn't matter with the contest at all, but they got the history, so they're penalized.
Fred?
Not stringent enough.
Okay.
Well, it's gonna be appealed. So it's like a negotiation. Start out at the highest point and whittle it down. That's the way I see it.
That's interesting. I hope that you're never a defense attorney. At any rate, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. In the meantime, keep an open mind and send us your recommendations at sportstalk@usssa.edu. Let us know what you think about this issue. Thanks very much. For Dr. Cromartie, Dr. Foley, this is Arthur Ogden saying, have a good day in sport.